Hi, Sunil. Hi, Ajay.
Hey, Ranjit.
Hi, Anjay.
Yeah, it's 5:10 Andy. We'll go ahead and Raja garu. Okay?
Go ahead, Sunil.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. So first of all, I would like to thank everyone who joined today's session. I know it's been only a short notice of 3 weeks, but we got a tremendous response. And I would like to also thank Anjay Garu and the TANA leadership for giving this opportunity. The session would not have been possible without the coordination from Raja Kasukuti Garu and Suresh Pila, Alex, and Fani Kanteti and Ranjit Mamdi. So I don't want to take too much time, Andy. I would like to ask Raja Kasukuti Garu to address, and then followed by Anjay Garu.
Yeah, thank you, Sunil. Thank you very much. And once again, thank you, Alex, for joining and coming forward to do the session for the Indian community. I know you are doing a lot of other sessions also. TANA as an organization, we are doing a lot of community awareness programs, and this is one of the most needed program for the Indian community. Most of us, we do a lot of jobs where we just sit and do the job. This will help us more on our health side, our fitness side as well. So thank you, Alex, and I don't want to take much time, and I would like to say my appreciation to Alex as well as Sunil and and the entire TANA leadership and Anjay Chaudhary garu. Thank you very much for joining in. Thank you.
So now I'd like to ask to address the session President Anjay Chaudhary garu. Please, Anjay.
Thank you, Sunil. Good evening and a warm welcome to all the fitness freaks, or probably all the people who wanted to be fit. This is their first probably a good initiative. So let me probably a couple of minutes lay down the purpose of overall initiative. So especially this term, when I took over as a president from July 10, there are many initiatives that we are carrying forward from the previous terms, but health and fitness is one of this term's initiative, which I want to take it in a big way. And we have already conducted hiking events in multiple areas and different activities, which are aligned to this new initiative. But this is definitely one of the most important event that I could say. And my special thanks to man of today, Alex, so for partnering with TANA to get this to our community's forefront, and also our core team, Raja Kaskuti, our community service coordinator, Sunil Kuganti, and Suresh Pila garu. He has his own experience to share, which would inspire all of us, I guess, and also Fani Kanteti and Ranjit Mamdi, and all leadership who are present in this particular session. And without their unconditional help, we would not have done this. So this session especially is designed. Of course, it's a webinar, but it's a 3-part beginner fitness for the wellness of the community. This is particularly designed for our Indian nations, keeping our body structure, probably our genetics in mind, and what wonders can the fitness do to our daily life, how we can get healthy, in our stressful situations, other than your regular hospitals or treatment. So I think we should take advantage of this great session, impart knowledge with our friends as well, and try to gain as much as we can, and we can squeeze as much as we can from Alex, I guess. Don't just listen to Alex, ask him questions, bug him, try to get the best out of Alex. Here is an opportunity. And without taking more time, thank you for all. However we want, whatever we bring to the community's forefront, but without your participation, we can't succeed. So thank you all once again, everybody, from bottom of my heart. So let's dive into the session. Back to Sunil. Thank you all, and you all have a good night.
Yeah, thank you, Anjay Garu. Thank you for your message. And and also we got Women Services Coordinator, Dr. Uma Katki Garu. She's also part of a lot of other activities that she's championing. And I would like to ask her to address the folks as well.
It is a nice initiative. Sorry, I couldn't able to enable my video. I'm somewhere else, so I just want to say a few words. It is a nice initiative by Sunil and Karaja Kaskuti garu. It is very needed. Fitness is needed in the at these times, and in the COVID times also we need fitness, and it is good for our health. And very nice initiative by Sunil and Raja garu. Thank you very much, Andy.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. So I don't want to take too much time, and already, we waited for some minutes here. Just a quick introduction of Alex. He's a certified trainer, nutritionist, and a director of Wholistic Development and Healthy Organization. He's based out in West Coast. So that's one of the reasons why we have to choose this time. And also we have to consider other TANA programs that are happening simultaneously across these weekends. And also I would like to thank Suresh Pilagaru, who has a valuable experience working with Alex. And I would like to now jump onto the session. Alex, go ahead, and whenever you're ready, you can share your screen.
Okay, can everybody see me? Everybody see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, good. Okay, well, thank you to everybody as well. Thank you to the TANA leadership, excuse me, to Sunil, to Anji, our president, and of course, Suresh. If it wasn't for his faith in what we did together, none of this would be possible. And if we can help more than just one person, I think the goal of today's presentation will be accomplished. Okay, so let's begin. So a quick disclaimer. I'm not trying to give out professional medical advice. There are some strong medical images, not too strong, but if you have any kids, just please be aware of that. And I am trying to speak for, address the Indian community, of course, the Telugu community, based off my professional experience. And I am going to have to generalize that information a bit. I understand everyone is unique and everyone is different. So please don't feel offended if you feel like I'm over stereotyping or over generalizing. And as always, feedback is always welcome. So if you feel that maybe I said something that was inaccurate or not completely true, please let me know. I would love to grow as a professional. Okay, so the purpose behind today's presentation is to really give a long-term and relevant new idea of fitness to the TANA community, as was already aforementioned. This is a big issue for this community because of the strain in professional and in the professional and personal life of many Indians, particularly in North America, but all over the developing world. So it's really catered to that audience, and it's my aspiration that I make it as relevant and as interesting as I can today. Okay, so I'd like to start out, please everybody, I want you guys to get involved. I want you to take your notes app out on your phone. So please get your phone out, take your notes app, and I want to make this as personalized for you as I can, okay? So what we're going to do is go out, take your phone, and I want you to think about these three important questions. And we're going to get back to this towards the end of today's presentation. And think deeply and honestly. If you want, you can share that in the chat. You don't have to, but I want you to think deeply and honestly. So what are three things currently right now in your life that are holding you back from getting into shape, from getting fit? Okay, that's the first question. I'll give you a moment to write that down. Just three things that are holding you back from getting into shape. It can be anything. Okay, number two, what is your motivation level right now on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being extremely high. And again, be as honest as you can be. Hopefully I can make that a little higher by the end of today's presentation. And this third question is a little bit distinct. Whatever number you picked on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say it's a 7. Why isn't that number lower? Why didn't you pick a 5 or a 4? Why is it a 7 in this example? That's very important because that tells you the root cause or the most powerful motivator you have for getting in shape. Okay, so again, long-term practical solutions, right? Things that are effective. not just generic advice. Okay, so let's start off with why you should care about fitness. Many people don't like fitness, right? Some people do, some people don't. Usually us who are in the fitness industry love fitness. We grew up playing sports and we just love being in the gym and weight training. Many people don't, and that's fine. It's our job as professionals to make it relative to the audience that we're speaking to, because everybody should be healthy. And that's really what fitness is about. So if you look at this slide here, the leading cause of death, even with the coronavirus going through the country or the world, was heart disease, was still heart disease, cancer, right? And we have stroke, chronic respiratory diseases, Alzheimer's, diabetes. All of these things have been scientifically proven to be reduced, not eliminated, but reduced through exercise, right? The most common causes of death in the developed world are heart disease and cancer. Exercise can help significantly reduce that. That's why it's important. Okay, for the Indian community in general, in 2016, I found this infographic here. Heart disease, #1 killer, no surprise there. We also have stroke, diabetes, chronic kidney disease, such as kidney failure, diabetes, things like that. Respiratory illnesses, all of these things can be significantly reduced or prevented. Not always, but can be through exercise. So that's why this is very important. These are things that are relevant to the community here. Okay, holistic takeaways. Health is very important. In fact, it's more important than your career or your money. Traditionally in the Indian community, education, right, career, these are things that are really valued, right? These are things that are really pushed in the community, particularly here in North America. While those things are important, I'm not saying that they're not important, but you really have to have a more balanced perspective and really look at things strategically and long term, right? Many of us are not going to die in the developed world from lack of money or having a poor career. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have good finances or a good career, but we're not going to die from that, right? We're most likely not going to die from that. Many of us, unfortunately, will die from things prematurely, I should say, from heart disease, cancer, stroke. Again, all of these things can be significantly reduced through the proper and consistent implementation of exercise. For cancer, for those of you who are interested, exercise has been shown to reduce breast cancer, prostate cancer somewhat, colon cancer, pancreatic cancer. So it does reduce it. It does it by regulating many of the stress hormones, keeping them in the proper check and balance that can contribute to cancer if we're very inactive and stressed, which unfortunately happens a lot in this community in general. Okay, I am here in today's presentation. This is a 3-part series to introduce you to physical exercise, make it as relevant as possible, make it as practical as possible, make it as doable as possible for you and your specific type of life. There's 3 components really to fitness, right? We have training, which is a signal that imposes a certain type of desired adaptation in our bodies. We'll get into more detail later. Next week is about nutrition, specifically for the Indian community, how we can modify that cuisine and make it more culturally relevant for the TANA community, right? I'm not going to be talking about steak and chicken breast or anything like that. We're going to make it as practical and relevant as possible, both for veg and non-veg participants. The third aspect is the most important. That's why it's at the bottom of the triangle here. That's accountability. Again, training, fitness, exercise, eating in the right way, all of that is important, but it means nothing unless we do it consistently. So consistency and accountability, those are the most important things when it comes to fitness. Okay, so I'm not going to get into too much detail today about fitness, or about exercise, but it's important that you understand some of the basics. Consistency is key, right? You have a desire, you get educated, you apply that. That's what we did with Suresh, and we modify until we achieve something. And then once we achieve the desired result, we maintain that, okay? So that's a high level perspective of how this process works. So core message, life is hard, right? We need to have health in order to live life. Exercise is a great way to enhance that. Let's clear up some misconceptions. Arnold is cool about fitness. Clear up some misconceptions about fitness. Arnold is cool, but how does this really apply to your life? many of you in general are probably not interested in bodybuilding or interested in strongman competitions or becoming a movie star or fitness model. So this superficial, generic image of fitness of a guy, without his shirt, in the beach in Southern California, this most likely has no relevance to this community, right? These are nice photos, but how are they relevant to the TANA community in general? And my answer is they're not really relevant that much. Again, another aspect that I want to clear up. We're not talking about fitness in this specific circumstance to increase sex appeal or to make us look good, right? We're not talking about bodybuilding competitions, fitness figure competitions, bikini competitions. That is not what we're doing here. What we're trying to do is increase your productivity and enhance your health. Obviously, many of you want to reduce your stomachs and look better, but it's mostly the internal that matters in this to this community, right? Improving blood pressure, things like that. It's not about how we look so much. So fitness for this community is about family, right? It's about contributing more to the community. It's about happiness, living a long, healthy life and making lots of memories, right? It's not about, having 18-inch arms or anything like that. It's about aging gracefully, right? Many of us are going to live until we're 70, 80, 90 years old. We don't want to spend 30 or 40 of those years being a burden to our families, being in a hospital, things like that. And fitness doesn't have to be hard, right? It's mostly about avoiding disease and suffering and living to the fullest of our potential. A lot of this has to do with avoiding disease and suffering. And that's a really big point that I really want to stress. I don't want to be morbid or be overly dark, but these are it. We have to be realistic and we have to be honest with ourselves if we're trying to improve our community. These issues, arthritis, joint replacement, diabetes, kidney failure, heart disease, right? These are serious issues that affect the community. Take a moment in your own life to think about family members, friends who have had some of these issues, who've had to deal with this. Heart disease, stroke, cancer, having a knee replaced, going through diabetes, how they suffered from that, how some of them died prematurely from that, unfortunately, right? Fitness is how we can reduce these things from happening, reduce the occurrence, right? It's really amazing how exercise in particular, physical exercise can reduce this significantly. Again, not eliminate it, but reduce it. So let's clear up, let's have some definitions here, right? So disease is not so much a lack of health. One second. So disease, don't think of that as a lack of health. Think of that more as health debt or health bankruptcy. We're going to compare health or disease to money, so that way it's a little bit better understood, right? Disease, not all disease, but disease a lot of times for this community is what happens when you spend health that you don't have. So the solutions, right? We want to clarify what fitness is to you. So fitness, the definition of fitness here is enhancing your health, right? Doing things that increase your health. Think of fitness as healthcare, right? True healthcare. When you're engaging in physical exercise, you're improving your health. So here we go. Fitness is the enhancement of health. It's a driver of energy. It's true healthcare. Health, don't think of health as merely the lack of disease. That's a reactive mentality. Think of it as strength and vitality of being, right? So again, health care in this sense is fitness. Life is hard. Why should you worry about health? Well, obviously life is hard. It requires health in order to survive. You have to expend energy. The more energy you have, the more health you have, the more richer of a life you're really going to experience. When you overwork yourself, you reduce your health, you destroy it. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. Engineers, not everybody in this community, but many people in this community are software engineers. They're part of a high tech, or they're numbers oriented. Maybe they're into finances. These individuals in general, again, there's always exceptions, but these individuals in general tend to overlook the intangibles. Health is not like money or the stock market or things like that. You can't measure it. You can't really put a number on it. So because of that, many people in this community tend to overlook that. Because they can't measure it, they almost feel as if it doesn't exist until something really bad happens. So a great way to think about how to manage your health, how to be healthy, is think about it like money, right? You don't want to run into debt by spending more than you have. So if you're overworking yourself, if you're doing too much, if you're not doing activities that replenish your health, such as physical exercise, you're going to run into a health debt or potentially health bankruptcy. And that's what I want you guys to think of as disease mostly. Now there's always exceptions, right? Some people get unlucky and get rare cancers and things like that. But generally speaking, a lot of these diseases can be avoided by not getting into health debt. So avoid health bankruptcy, right? So when we go into health debt, we don't see a banker, we see a doctor, right? I want to clarify some things here too. So think of the medical industry not so much as health care. Again, we're defining fitness in that way, but think of it as disease care, right? How many of you go to the doctor when there's nothing wrong with you besides the physical, right? Not many. Most of us go to the doctor when there's something wrong. Doctors are trained to diagnose, treat, and manage disease, right? Medical doctors aren't trained to improve your mile time or improve how much you squat or how many push-ups you can do, things like that. So think of healthcare, or excuse me, the medical industry as disease care, not so much healthcare. Now, I want to be very clear here. I believe in the science of medicine. Holistic development does. If you are sick, by all means, go to the doctor. But nevertheless, in our view, in my view, the medical industry is really all about managing disease. It's really has nothing to do with managing health, right? Fitness does not eliminate the chances of getting disease, but it reduces it. So that's very important for you to understand. All right, being fit is the best way for increasing your chances of staying healthy. That's the idea here. So we already talked about these things. Don't spend your health that you don't have, right? Very big issue with this community is overworking itself. Too many professional obligations, too many personal obligations. You have to find a way to conduct exercise consistently, and that's what we're going to talk about. All right, so I want you guys to close your eyes. We're going to do a new exercise. I know many of you are tired of me talking. Just close your eyes for a second and take 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I want you guys to keep your eyes closed, and I want you to think about these answers honestly. If you want to, you can put this in the chat. You don't have to, but these are personal answers for you, okay? Again, we're talking about fitness here, how fitness is real healthcare, how you have to be proactive with that, all right? With that in mind, I know that can be a chore because you have so many things to do. Why add another? But think about it this way, and here comes the questions. Where do you want to be in the next 15, 20 years of your life? Where do you really want to be? Think about the things you want to do with yourself, with your family, with your spouse, with your kids, with your friends. Where do you want to be in the next 15, 20 years? Take a moment to think about that. How is being healthy going to help you in the next 15, 20 years with all the things you want to do and accomplish in your life? And how is being healthy going to help your family in the next 15, 20 years? How is you being healthy going to help them? For example, your kids. If you're healthy, what are you going to be able to do with your kids as opposed to not being able to do if you're unhealthy? So when it comes to lack of motivation, of not wanting to do this, again, think about fitness not so much as looking good on the beach, but of maintaining your health, of being a more productive person for your family, for your company, for your employer, and for your friends and your children, right? The fitter you are, the less likely you're going to have many of these terrible diseases later on in life. Another thing that may motivate you is being unhealthy is extremely expensive. This is called the Telugu Association of North America. So please forgive me for anybody in Canada or Mexico. But I know that in the United States, healthcare is extremely expensive, right? Excuse me, disease care, the medical industry, and it's only going to get more and more expensive, right? Doctors have to charge more because they're dealing with insurance companies. Insurance companies don't want to pay. It's a vicious cycle. What good is a prescription company going to have, a drug maker, if they spend 35 years making a drug that cures people of disease? I'm not getting into conspiracy theories. All I'm saying is all these organizations are an industry, and they have an incentive to make money, right? Thus, at least in the United States, healthcare is extremely expensive. It's almost like the legal system. You want to avoid getting trapped into it as much as possible. By all means, go do your physicals, do any preventative treatments, but it's something that we want to avoid much as possible through real healthcare, which is fitness, which is conducting exercise regularly, learning how to do that. So that's why it's important, because being unhealthy is extremely expensive in the United States. Right? Now, we have to make this relevant for the TANA community, right? If we make it too generic, it's not going to really resonate with you guys. And it's my job to make sure that I can do that to the greatest degree possible. So there is a lot, the reason this is such a big problem in this community is there's a lot of difficulties and unique circumstances that make it more difficult for many Indians to get in shape, to be healthy, right? Many of you come here, you weren't born in one of the countries of North America, right? In order to come here, you had to have really good grades, you had to work extremely hard, you have demanding careers. It's an extremely different culture in North America, right? It's individualistic, it's not communal. Many of you aren't, at least when you first came here, you weren't used to not having help, right? Around the house, with family. It was all up to you to do things. Many of you also have a lot of responsibilities, as opposed to like traditional American kids who get kicked out of the house at 18 and just worry about themselves and put mom and dad in a retirement home. That's usually not how it works with Indian culture, right? When you're 30, when you're 40, not only are you taking care of your children, you're taking care of your family back in India potentially. You're taking care of your parents. So you're getting pulled from every single direction. You have to take care of your wife, your husband, your employers, any social activities you have, friends, kids activities, children, parents. Many people in this community are getting pulled in all directions, and you can only give what you have, right? So if you're constantly expending yourself and you're not replenishing yourself through good health care, physical exercise, fitness, you're going to go into health debt, and many of you are going to have diseases, right? It's just like some guy who just keeps, swiping his credit card over and over again, like in Las Vegas. He's going to run into financial issues because he's spending more than he has. You can only give what you have, and it doesn't matter whether it's money or health. If you spend more than you have, you're going to run into debt and problems. In this case, disease, most likely, right? Heart disease, cancer, arthritis, weight gain, right? Simply not. It's not so much that you need a trainer or you need a gym, but it's that the culture here and the situation really demands a lot from you, and you have to spend extra effort to make sure you don't overwork yourself. It's doing everything you can to manage all those increased obligations, from this culture, from this specific environment, right? And it's really hard on you guys, and I empathize with you, and I want to make sure we can do everything we can to give you guys the right tools to help you support your health. Right? Higher costs, higher obligations. Don't think of exercise as selfish. Sometimes in this community, people shy away from exercise because they view it as individualistic, because maybe they have that Arnold Schwarzenegger image in their head. That's not what fitness should most likely mean to you. It's about reinvesting in your energy, in your vitality, so that you can serve yourself and the community better, those you care about, your family, your friends, your employer, whatever it is. Just like the more money you have, the more you can spend if you want to. The fitter you are, the more you can do, because the more strength and energy you have, right? You want to replenish that. You don't want to deplete that, because unlike money, if you lose your health, it's a lot harder to get back, right? It's not so simple as just simply bringing the numbers back up. It's more complicated than that. One way you can think of this is the old parable of sharpening the saw. So it's just a brief little story. Essentially what it is was there was a guy walking in the woods, and he sees another man really struggling to cut down this tree. And it's because the saw is blunt. It hasn't been sharpened. So he asked the man who's cutting the tree, why don't you take time to sharpen your saw so you can actually cut the tree down properly? And the guy says, I don't have any time to sharpen my saw because I'm too busy cutting, trying to slice the tree. That's the same dilemma many people in this community have. They don't want to take the time, or they don't feel like they have the time to properly take care of themselves because they're too busy with obligations. But if all you're doing is just, blunting your effectiveness in life, you're really holding yourself back, and you're most likely going to set yourself up for issues down the road with your health. It's a lot more effective and it's a lot more intelligent to invest in your health and sharpen yourself so that you can, not only will you have more energy, but you'll be more productive because you'll be sharper. You'll be able to do things more effectively and more efficiently. So that's a good way of thinking about it, this story about sharpening the saw. Okay, so again, many of you are probably sick of me talking. So we're going to do a brief physical exercise, okay? And I'm also going to show you guys some exercise videos, and we're going to have images and stuff. So I want you guys to take your finger and put it right on your belly button, okay? Put it right on your belly button. And what we're going to do here, right, is we're going to talk about a little bit more about exercise. Is I want you to go in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And we're going to do that for 60 seconds, okay? So I'm going to count with you guys out loud. We're going to go in and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, we're going in and out like a belly dancer. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's go up to 60. 11, 12. You see my stomach moving? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. As your stomach gets activated, do it more. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. 2/3 of the way there. 20 more. Come on. 41, 42, squeeze hard. 43, push it out. 44, push it out. 45, 46, 47 is probably burning, right? 48, 49, 50. Last 10, hard. 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. Okay. So that's a good example of how we can activate our core. When I talk a little bit more about the specifics of exercise, corrective exercise, hopefully now you know what the core means. It's very important to keep that strong. You can do that, by the way, when you're sitting at work, at an office. Exercise doesn't always have to involve the gym. You can exercise anywhere. It's about making it as practical as possible. Okay. So let's talk about some beginner principles, some basic theory of exercise before I show you guys specific examples so that you get educated on so you have a framework of what to expect, of what you should be doing. So exercise can be thought of with these 3 different principles. The first one is fit, right? Frequency, intensity, time, and type, right? How frequently are you exercising when you're starting? How intense should it be? When you're beginning, it should not be that intense. How much time are you devoting to it? You don't have to spend an hour to properly train, to properly work out. You can break that up into 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening. I really emphasize that a lot with my clients. I call that the 12-12 rule. If you can exercise every 12 hours, even if it's just 15, 20 minutes, you're going to get a lot better benefit than exercising for 1 hour and then waiting 24 hours to be physically active again. And then the type of exercise, right? Are you running? Are you stretching? Are you lifting something? We'll get into the specifics of the types of different training in the next slides. SAID, S-A-I-D. That stands for a specific adaptation to imposed demand. That's just a fancy way of saying that you only get better at what you practice. Like, for example, if your kids just study calculus, right? And they just do calculus equations and they don't work on their writing skills in English, well, they're just going to get better at calculus and they're not going to do good in English, right? Just because they're studying doesn't mean they're going to be good across all subjects. It's very specific, right? So a kid who does calculus and only that isn't going to get better at English. He's writing it in English. He's just going to get better at doing calculus equations, right? And maybe other math problems, but it doesn't carry over as much. So with exercise, it's very similar, right? If we just spend our time running, or if we just spend our time weight training and we don't do the other types, we're only going to get good at that. So for this community, it's good to have a proper balance of different types of physical activities. FIK, frequency is king. This is the most important aspect of physical exercise. It's the frequency. It's not the intensity. So it's definitely not the intensity. You don't want to go hard at first. It's a very common misconception. It's not the time you're doing it, right? If you spend just 10, 15 minutes exercising in the morning and then again in the night, that's better than spending 30 minutes in the morning. And you don't have to sweat. So you can exercise in your office if you have 10 minutes with the exercise I just showed you. You can exercise at home. I'm going to give you guys specific examples of that. I want you to get into the mindset of how can I fit this in? How can I be as adaptable and practical as possible to fit this in somewhere? Because frequency is king. The more physically active you are, again, the intensity is not very important in the beginning, the better off you're going to be. And the more consistent you are with this exercise, the better chance you have at reducing those terrible diseases, heart disease, cancer, stroke, things like that, right? So you have to get into the mentality of how can I be as frequent with this as possible? And again, you can exercise anywhere. We'll get into that in a second. Right? So here's a picture of Suresh. So what exercise really is scientifically is a physical stressor, right? A fitness professional, somebody who's very knowledgeable in exercise, will manipulate exercise as a physical stress to produce a desired adaptation. Like, for example, if we're bench pressing, right? If we're lifting a very heavy weight, we're overcoming that resistance with our shoulders, with our arms, with our chest. And our body is going to take that stress, and assuming we have the right nutrition, is going to build that muscle bigger, back, and stronger, right? So everything is very specific, right? We're just stressing our bodies physically to produce a desired result. So if you're running, your heart's going to get stronger. If you're stretching, your back's going to get looser because it's going to be used to stretching. It's all very particular, but all we're doing, just think of it this way scientifically, is we're designing physical stress on our body so that it adapts in the way it's supposed to. And that goes back to growing up in the wild, how our ancestors did thousands of years ago, right? If they had to climb mountains, they got better at that. If they had to swim to catch fish, they got better at swimming, right? If they had to run away from prey or catch prey, they got better at running, right? That's where that comes from. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. Basic types of physical exercise, right? There's lots of ways to explain this, but I think this is the most relevant and easy to understand, right? You have mobility, flexibility. That's usually what we start off with. You can think of that as a warm-up. Then we progress into stability, balancing. That's a good precursor to strengthening, right? If you can't balance a weight, you can't lift it safely. Then we have strengthening. 3DR means three-dimensional resistance. And what that means is, as opposed to just lifting a weight up and down, we want to lift it forward and back through different exercises, side to side, and we want to get into twisting, right? Because if we're bending over to pick up, let's say, a rice bag at Costco, we're not only going down, we're going forward, right? We want to make it applicable and functional, right? If we're moving a basket, we want to do twisting exercises. If we're running to play with our kids, we want to get good at moving forward and back, right? So it's not just lifting weights or sitting still. We're not just going up and down. We want to go through all different planes of motion with different exercises. Not only does that make it functional, but it also adds variety and it makes it applicable. I really don't like using the word functional when it comes to training. I think it's overrated, but it makes it very applicable to our daily life. For example, you don't want to throw out your back because you're swinging a cricket bat because you didn't incorporate twisting exercises in your fitness routine. So 3DR is very important. Three-dimensional resistance. We want to strengthen through all different planes of motion. Stamina. My advice with stamina is make it low impact. I'm going to show you a video of Suresh exercising on a trampoline that reduces, or running on a trampoline, excuse me, that reduces the impact. You want to make it as sustainable as possible. Then we have cool down exercises or recovery. Just like we warm up, if we're physically stressing our bodies, particularly in the beginning when our bodies aren't used to exercise, we want to have a lot of recovery techniques to make sure we don't get into pain, we don't get injured, we don't get tight muscles. I'll go into that in more detail in the third presentation in 2 weeks, right? Here's something else that's encouraging. So when it comes to exercise, it's all about creating and keeping the spin. Now, just like with anything else, when you're starting off, there's a learning curve, right? There's an effort curve when it comes to fitness, right? It's hard because you're not used to it. You don't want to do it. you know, there's other things you want to be spending your time on. But as we just talked about, this is important. Everybody knows that. So the encouraging thing is getting in shape can be challenging, right? You can ask Suresh that himself, but maintaining that shape once you achieve it is a lot easier, right? Another way to think about this is like a guy who's saving for his retirement, who starts off at 20, right? He's going to have a lot easier time doing it than somebody who tries to start saving at 50, right? So same thing here. Once you attain a certain level, and that can be dependent on wherever you are, right? I'm not saying you have to become an Olympic athlete or anything like that, but once you maintain that desired level of fitness, you get, or achieve it, excuse me, then you can maintain it. And it's just like spinning a wheel, right? It takes a lot of effort to spin that wheel at first, but after a while, you can just kind of hit it every 10 seconds just to maintain that momentum. It's about momentum and building that and maintaining it. And building it is a lot harder than maintaining it. But once you do, it's not nearly as difficult as you think it is in the beginning. Once you're fit, it's a lot easier to stay in shape. That's essentially the gist here. Pain. We're going to go into a lot more detail in this in presentation 3, but I do want to touch briefly on this subject. Pain is something that a lot of people in the Indian community are fearful of and struggle with. I'm not saying that people in other communities don't have that issue. They do. But let me give you a specific example. In the United States, at least, traditionally, you know, athletics, especially vigorous contact sports, are really encouraged, right? It's mostly about sports, right? At least 20 years ago, it was mostly about playing sports. You went to school just to be able to play sports, right? It's not, that's probably not the same culture you had growing up in India if you did, right? Where academics were emphasized. Maybe you even came from a family that didn't like physical exercise, that viewed that as low level. Sometimes that happens too. But if you don't have an athletic background, if you didn't grow up playing sports, then you're not really physically educated. So if you start particularly by yourself at 35 or 40 or 45, let's say your doctor says you have high BP and you have a history of heart disease in your family, and you all of a sudden decide to start running because because the last time you exercised was when you were 17, and that's your definition of exercise, and all of a sudden you get knee pain because you haven't run in 25 years and you stop. Well, yeah, that type of pain is bad, right? But not all pain is bad, right? For example, if we get a little bit of soreness after weight training, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We may want to massage that. We may want to stretch that out. However, if we're getting deep joint pain, aches, right, after exercise, that's an example that you may want to change the activity or reduce the intensity. If all of a sudden you get a big tug while you're doing an exercise, that's really bad. You want to avoid that and potentially go to a doctor. Don't worry, that usually won't happen. But what I'm talking about is different types of pain, right? Not all pain is bad. And don't get discouraged if you do have pain. It just means you have to modify the activity, try something else, reduce the intensity, or perhaps get educated in some recovery techniques such as massage, self-massage, icing, things like that may help reduce that pain. If you don't have an athletic background, if you haven't exercised before, it may make sense to work with a professional so that you can learn really quickly and don't have to go through that learning curve by yourself, which can be very discouraging, especially if you're not experienced in this. A great way, a great way to reduce pain during exercise or to prevent it is called corrective exercise. So that exercise we just did with the core, where we were moving the stomach in and out, that's a great way for preventing back pain. Corrective exercise really has to do with loosening, stabilizing, and strengthening what we call the core, which is the scapula muscles, the shoulder, the stomach, the back muscles, and the hips. If we can get that center really strong, stable, and loose or untight, especially if you sit too much, that's going to be the foundation for you being able to do all these other activities, such as running, lifting, twisting, things like that, right? If you're sitting down for a long period of time and you haven't been physically active for 30 years, chances are your core is really loose. Is really tight and weak. And you probably don't want to start off running or playing sports, right? Because you're not adapted to that. You're adapted to sitting. So we have to undo that. Corrective exercise is the foundation for preventing and reducing injuries. I did a lot of that with Suresh. And it's one of the reasons why he was so successful in overcoming his back issue. Okay, so holistic solutions to beginner exercise challenges. You want to acquire a good foundation, right? Corrective exercise, core strengthening. You want to get educated in that. If you're inexperienced, you may want to seek professional guidance so that you don't have to go through that learning curve by yourself, right? You skip the uncertainty, you skip the pain, you learn how to track results, you learn how to set goals, particularly to fitness. All that a good fitness professional can provide you with. And the most important thing, again, is the reason we're doing physical exercise is not because many of you enjoy it or want to become athletes, but because it's the true form of healthcare, right? And in order for that to work, it has to be effective long-term. We have to do it consistently throughout our lives. So the most important aspect of this is you have to find exercise that is enjoyable and sustainable to you, or at least to the greatest degree possible if you don't like exercise. Right, that's the most practical and important tip I can give you. Find exercise that's sustainable and enjoyable. For example, if you like walking, go hiking, right? If you don't like weight training, perhaps you can try swimming or juggling balls or tennis or something like that. Find different things that you like, because if you don't like something, you're not going to do it, particularly if you're really busy. Right. Another common issue with beginning fitness for many people is lack of time. They say they're too busy with other things. Remember the little story about sharpening the saw? What I like to tell people is you need to clear out the suitcase to make room for this new fitness thing, right? Most people's lives are crammed with activities, particularly in this community, right? They have demanding professional careers, their kids are demanding, they have a lot of activities with their kids, they're enrolled in a lot of social activities like TANA. Right? They have too many things in the suitcase. You're not going to be able to do this long-term successfully. And I'm talking about fitness if your suitcase is too stuffed. Okay. So if you really are serious about getting into shape and doing it long-term, you need to look at your life, you need to organize it, and you need to clear out some things. Being busy is incredibly overrated. If you go to a hospital and you talk to many of these people who have some of these diseases, very common thing they'll talk about is that they work too much, they overworked, right? I'm not saying work and career is not important. What I'm saying is overworking yourself is extremely bad. And that's a very common issue here, right? If you have too many things in the suitcase isn't work. If you have too much going on in your life where you can't exercise, then you need to correct your life, reorganize it, and take something out, unburden yourself so that you can add this thing in. Just like money, right? You spend too much, you're going to get in debt with your money. If you are doing too many things to run yourself down, you are going to get into health debt, which is most likely going to lead to many of these diseases. Arthritis, because you're overweight. Heart disease, because you don't have time to swim or run or something like that, right? Cancer, because you were chronically stressed and your cortisol levels were up, right? You need to clear out the suitcase to make time for this. If you're too busy and you try to add this in, it's just going to fall out of the suitcase. That's one of the best ways I like to explain this. If you can organize your life and unload something and then add it, you're going to be successful at this most likely. Okay, so lack of time. There's 168 hours in a week, all right? You can dedicate 2 hours of exercise per week. Again, you could do Monday and Thursday. You could do 15 minutes in the morning on Monday, 15 minutes in the morning in the evening, and then Thursday again. And then perhaps that's 1 hour right there. And then perhaps you can fit it in Saturday morning and Saturday evening, or maybe one of the days, right? Or you could do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, morning and evening for 15 minutes. Everybody can do that. Nobody should have an excuse saying they're not busy or that they're too busy. If you are, you need to clear something out of the suitcase. Treat exercise like getting dressed, okay? Everyone is busy nowadays because of mobile technology. But no matter how busy we are, none of us show up to work when we can go back to the office again after this pandemic naked, right? None of us would ever show up to the office naked because, oh, I didn't have time to get dressed. I was too busy. I know that's a silly analogy, but I want you to treat exercise the same way, okay? Doesn't matter how busy you are. You're going to get dressed to go to work, right? To make yourself presentable. Treat exercise like getting dressed, like getting your clothes on. It doesn't matter how busy you are. Find a way to get it in. I'm going to show you guys some practical ways to do that. Schedule it on your calendar, either late or earlier in the day, so you can make sure you do it, right? Look at these photos here. These are photos of Suresh and another client I have. All of this is done in home. All of this was done in the pandemic, right? Suresh right there is lifting a dowel that he got from Home Depot for $5-7. right? He had a back issue. After 4 months, we were able to get him to bend over without any issues. The other client there, this is at 10 o'clock at night because he has a lot of meetings with international teams, right? He's doing a pullover, which is a back exercise with a resistance band that's attached to a door harness, right? He's not at a gym. That cost him $15 at Amazon, right? So that's really what I'm trying to show you guys. How can you make this consistent? How can you make this relevant to you? If you don't have time to go to a gym, that's fine. Exercise at home, right? It's safer anyway because you don't have to worry about the virus, right? If you're too busy with work, you could probably exercise either early in the morning or late at night, like Bonnie, right? These are things you can do, and you can do it with very inexpensive, practical, user-friendly equipment. You do not need a gym membership to get in shape. It's a very common misconception. Again, a Swiss ball here, right? It's cost $10, $15 at Amazon. Suresh is doing this to strengthen his lower back and glute buttocks region, right, and hamstrings too. In the photo on the right, Suresh is using water weights. That's something I like to use. Not many people use that. In fact, I don't know anybody else that uses it like that. There probably are people, but I haven't seen it. This is something I came up with because it allows us to go up to 28 pounds and adjust the weight very easily. All you have to do is fill up water a little bit more, and we can get up to 28 pounds in each hand. Suresh right there is lifting about 14 pounds in each hand, but it's really practical. And I think it cost them like $10 on Amazon to get these jugs, these 3-gallon jugs, right? So you want to be creative. You want to be innovative, right? Think about, again, just like you're very creative with how you save money and how you plan for your finances, you want to apply that same mentality to fitness because it is very important, more important than your career and money, right? You need health in order to survive, right? Your career and your money, even if that goes poorly, you're probably still going to live a decent life. But without health, you're not going to. That's guaranteed. And that's an absolute statement. So thinking about fitness in this very flexible, practical, innovative way, or at least creative way, is something that you all need to start incorporating. And it's a skill, right? Oh, I have 15 minutes. Let me run on the trampoline. Let me use the resistance bands at home. You don't have to have these. You can work in small batches. You don't have to have these waterfall or impractical methods to get in shape. That's an outdated image of fitness that I want to kind of clear away for you guys, so it's very relevant for your particular situation. Here's another example of Suresh running on a trampoline. Remember I said making stamina or cardiovascular exercise low impact so that it's sustainable? This is called rebounding. And obviously when he's on a trampoline, it's going to reduce the impact because the trampoline is going to bounce him. Very effective way to run and get the benefits of sprinting, hard running without the impact of it. And that trampoline costs like 30, 40 bucks on Amazon. Okay, so let me show you guys some examples, some videos of exercise. Yeah?
Thank you, Alex. I just want to do a time check. It's almost an hour since we kickstarted the meeting. I know we didn't start until 5:15, but hopefully, it's okay to continue for everyone.
Sure. Does anybody need to go, or can I have 5 minutes just to show some videos?
Yeah, and just to let you know, guys, this session is being recorded. So once the recording is done, we will post the link in the WhatsApp group. Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Okay. So this is an example of corrective exercise. This is what we call a scorpion. So Suresh had a lower back issue. So one of the things that I really emphasize with him that a lot of people don't talk about is stretching the front of the stomach, the front of the hips, right? That's attached to the spine just like the back is, right? So this exercise not only strengthens the butt here, the lower back and the buttock region, but it also loosens up the front of the hip and the stomach, which gets tight from sitting a lot. And you see it's very subtle. He's just lifting his knee half an inch. And this is a step exercise or a precursor to what's called a scorpion, which is a more advanced version of that. This is an example of corrective exercise. This is an example of core strengthening. This is called, excuse me, let me take the volume off. This is an example of a side plank, a modified side plank. This is very early in Suresh's program, I think 2 or 3 months in. and he's just strengthening. You see how he's wobbling there because he doesn't have a lot of stability. And he's right there, he's strengthening his oblique muscles, which are the muscles on the side of the stomach. Again, we want to strengthen from all different angles and avenues, right? So, and he's wobbling a lot here because he's not used to it. So that's very common in the beginning. He can do a lot. You can do a lot more now, obviously. But I think that was in Jan of this year, January. This is an example of teaching Suresh how to squat properly. Right? In the beginning, he had very tight ankles. It may not be easy for you to see, but the reason he's squatting awkwardly like that is because his ankles were very tight. We're using the chair to help him loosen up his ankles. And again, this is all done at home, right? You don't need to do this at a gym. Once you understand what you're doing, you can use tools all around you to get in better shape. So that's teaching him how to squat properly. This is a fun little exercise with the stick. You gotta keep it at the same level, sir. Sorry. So we can do a lot. These dowels, these sticks, these rods, whatever you want to call them, I really love them because you can do so many different exercises with them. So this could be an example of a stamina exercise of working his forward and back muscles, right? Again, you want to strengthen from all different planes of motion, right? And we can combine this with a variety of different exercises to give him a good stamina routine and also get him to move in very athletic ways as opposed to just running or doing something basic and repetitive. This is a Swiss ball. This is a great, one of the best tools you can use for strengthening your core and your hips, which is part of your core. So right here, he's actually, let's see what he's doing. Oh yes, so he's going into a shoulder extension. So the reason he's doing this in particular is because if you think about it, when you're in front of a computer all the time, your hands are in front of you, right? That creates a lot of tension in your chest and your shoulders and can lead to neck issues. So right here, we're doing the opposite. Even though he's looking down, he's actually bringing his hands behind him and strengthening all the muscles of the upper back. So this is a great way to prevent neck pain, cervical neck issues, because we're bringing balance back to the body. If when we sit down, we're constantly engaging our front muscles, not the muscles behind us. This exercise is strengthening all the muscles of his posterior chain, which is a technical term for all the muscles behind him, right? So that brings balance to the body and helps undo the excessive negative effects of sitting, which is relevant to this community because many people in this community tend to sit a lot because they have office jobs. Okay. So this is another exercise. Here he's doing, I believe, a modified reverse hyper. Yeah, he is. He's doing a unilateral. Unilateral means one side at a time as opposed to bilateral, which would be both legs. So this is an intermediate exercise. Since he had a back issue, we're trying, and he's more advanced at this particular stage in the program. He's strengthening his lower back, his butt, and his hamstrings. You notice how all of it's controlled. He's in a good posture here. He's engaging his shoulders. And again, this ball costs $15, $20 on Amazon at most, and it's in home. So it's very relevant. This can be very relevant and effective for you guys. You just have to learn how to do it properly. The famous trampoline, right? This is one of the cornerstones of the program because it's fun, it's a little different, and it really helps improve cardiovascular fitness. All at home. You don't have to buy an expensive treadmill for thousands of dollars and get it installed and worry about the warranty expired. You can just get a $50 trampoline that's better for your knees, right? Because you don't have to worry about your joints getting worn out from the impact. As you can tell here, he's rebounding. He's running in place on the trampoline. He's keeping his stomach tight. One thing I emphasize is proper shoulder mechanics as well, because running is not just a lower body exercise. So he's moving his shoulders back and forth and engaging his upper body. If you don't move the arms properly while you run, you tend to build up tension in the upper back because the energy from the legs has nowhere to go. So that's a common misconception with running. And again, since he's bouncing here, this is very sustainable. You can do this long term. It's practical. It's in home. It's inexpensive equipment. And it's not destroying his knees as opposed to running outside, how running outside would for most people at that age. Here, remember he was doing a squat. I believe here he's doing an overhead squat. So 2 months before he was just learning how to do a squat. And now here he's doing an overhead squat. This is one of the best exercises, total body exercises. This is a great bang for your buck. High value for time exercise once you get advanced enough. Because not only is he working his legs here, but he's working his stomach, his core region, because he has to balance his arms being extended with his legs, and all that energy goes through the core. He's also working his upper back because he has to hold that stick upright. So this is working all the muscles in the right way that tend to get very weak and tight from sitting. And what was really encouraging is not only did Suresh have a back issue here, but he was able, oh, I'm sorry, he's doing a squat press from here, but he's doing it from an overhead position. This is even more advanced than an overhead squat because he's maintaining the leg position and doing a press. So what's really encouraging with all this is Suresh was barely learning how to squat 2 months prior with the chair, as you saw. 6 months prior to that, he could barely even walk. And look what he was able to do just through getting educated online. I've never met Suresh in person. He's located on the East Coast. I'm in California. So, but having a professional there to teach you how to do this properly can really do wonders for your life and change it for the better. Here he's doing an overhead lunge, right? And again, the whole idea here is we're trying to connect the whole body and make it more efficient, right? Upper back, core, stomach, legs, all of that. He's doing it in home with a very inexpensive piece of equipment that he got at Home Depot, right? So once you know what you're doing, once you have the right guidance, you can really make this effective, fun, and really take care of yourself, which is proper health care. Last video I'll show is him running, is a little bit more advanced. As he got even more advanced, and now he's adding resistance bands. Oh, he almost fell there. I was being a bad trainer. I should have warned him about that. But he's using resistance bands here to make the exercise even harder. So he can get the benefits of sprinting, which is running as fast as you can, without the impact from his knees. Here he's learning it, so he's just getting the hang of it. But you can see how we can progress that based off someone's level. And it doesn't matter where you are, right? You can progress really quickly if you have the right program. Okay, so if anybody's interested in potentially learning about this, I'll have a link set up. Perhaps I'll put it on the WhatsApp group that we set up, that Sunil set up, and I'll be running a free online boot camp in January of next year. And if anybody's interested in working with me one-on-one, I'm offering a free class too, a free private session for anybody who wants to, starting in late October once these presentations are done. Sunil, I'm sorry if I took too long. Last thing is pain loss will be covered in the third presentation. So that's a very common issue because most people have a lot of pain when starting a fitness program. Suresh was no exception. So teaching self-massage, all these things I'll be covering more in detail in the third presentation. Okay, question and answer time to anybody who has any questions. Sorry about the length of the presentation. I apologize.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, so anybody have questions, you can unmute yourself. If you have issues, let me know in the chat window. I can unmute. So I know we said that we will give 15 minutes of time for Q&A session. I know we started late. So hopefully starting in the next 2 sessions, we will be on time and we'll try to wrap up quickly. Okay. So if anybody have questions, feel free to ask in the chat directly to me, or you can unmute yourself and ask questions. I don't see any questions coming up, so I hope everybody enjoyed the session. So thank you, Alex, again for this wonderful presentation, and also thanks to Suresh for letting him show all those videos. So those are very wonderful videos that how to practically use or doing that exercise with less equipment and having less space at home itself. So anybody have questions after this session, please, you can post that in the chat window. If there are not too many questions, I'm sure Alex will be able to answer right away. I'll give 1 more minute or 30 seconds to see if anybody is coming with questions. If not, then as we will end this session. As I said, this session is being recorded. It will be posted in the WhatsApp group.
Any questions, anyone? Is there Jay Aaron? Does he have a question? I see him on.
Did he raise a hand? No.
Okay.
So the next two sessions will be at the same time next week and the following week. The second is more is introduction to Indian fitness cuisine, and the third one is more posture correction and ergonomics. So hopefully that will be also very helpful for our community. Thank you very much again, Alex, Suresh Pila, and everyone. Have a great night.
All right, thank you guys.
Yep, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. It was a nice session.